Hi there, you're watching the Mechanical SLR Lounge, and today I thought it would be fun if we went through my Konica collection. So this is the main system that I am interested in. I have a few other like odds and ends here and there, but for the most part, the autoreflex series is where my curiosity is. So yeah, today I thought we would just go through my different cameras, my lenses, and just kind of talk about them, what I think of them. I won't be going into any extraneous detail about anything. This is more of just laying out what I have and the more in-depth reviews and talks of what's to come. Anyhow, so we'll start with the bodies. So here we have a autoreflex T2, which was preceded by the autoreflex T. The T had a run from, I believe, 1968 until 1970. Excuse me. In 1970, the T2, this camera, was released. This is the black body version. It's a bit more rare than the silver body, so these do sell for a bit more, but you don't have to look that hard to find them. So the shift from the T to the T2 wasn't a giant one. There weren't really too many changes. On the T, the power switch is located here on the back, while on the T2, it's located here by the shutter, which is far more convenient. In terms of other differences, I believe there were a few body changes, but really nothing of significance. Hence why I don't really feel the reason to purchase a T. The T2 is essentially the same camera, just with a few very minor differences. Next, we have the T3, which had a run from, I believe it was 1973 till 75. Perhaps it was 72. As it said, no extraneous detail. So the T3 is quite different than the T and T2. As you can see, the top layout is still relatively similar, but the T3 has a hot flash, or sorry, a hot shoe. It has a multiple exposure button as well, which is quite neat. It's just a little tab right here. You just pull that back as you're winding the lever, and the film will not advance, it will stay in the same spot. You also have the shutter locking mechanism in the same position. Also turns on the meter and acts as a battery check if you push it that way. So in that way they're similar. The depth of field preview was changed. So instead of pushing this silver button in on the T2, you push the self-timer lever in on the T3, and that will, sorry, let me just the aperture for you can see it there. So pushing that in will give you your depth of field preview. Other than that, it's a pretty standard camera. This is probably my favorite of the three that I own. And honestly, that's mostly because of the sound of the shutter. I would fire it for you, but I do have a roll of film in here. So that will be for another time. But yeah, I really love this camera. All right, and the last body that I have is the autoreflex TC. And this camera actually had, I believe it was the longest run of any of the autoreflex series. So this was from, again, I might be wrong, but from memory, it was 1975 until 1981, I believe. So for a Konica, a relatively long-lived camera, this is a great little camera, honestly. You can't really go wrong. They're everywhere. You can have them for very, very cheap, often with a lens. They're super compact. If I can just, here, I'll hold up the T3 next to the TC. Like, that size difference is significant. From that side, it's thinner, it's shorter, it's less chunky, it's far more ergonomic. It actually borders on feeling cramped compared to the T2 and the T3. But it's very, very comfortable to hold in the hand. The throw of the film advance is super short, so super smooth. There is no depth of field preview. There's no times from 1 second until, is it usually a quarter? Yeah, a quarter of a second. So this is a reduced feature camera. But being realistic, how often are you really shooting at a quarter of a second? Not very often is the answer. It also has a hot shoe, so that's nice. The meter is actuated by pulling out the film advance here. You can see that little red dot there. To put it back into position, you just press this little switch there. That clicks back into place. Very satisfying. Yeah, if you're looking for a compact budget film camera that is not going to let you down, the autoreflex TC, I cannot stress this enough, is definitely where you want to be. It does have a plastic top in comparison to these, which are full metal bodies. But honestly, you can barely tell. The plastic is, I don't know what kind of plastic they used, but it is extremely robust. It ages very, very well. The bottom plate is made of metal on the earlier models. On some of the late models, the bottom was also made of plastic. And then you'll also see that there were, if you have a later model with plastic bottom, there will also be 4 screws on the hot shoe. This one does not have that. I did have, at one point I had 3 of these cameras because I was buying them just for the lenses. And I did have a later model with the plastic bottom and the 4 screws on the hot shoe, but I sold it before I could make this video. So unfortunately, you'll just have to trust me. All right, so that's the TC. The T4 came quite soon after the TC, but I don't really feel the need to have it, as it's the exact same body as the TC. It's just more fully featured. The light meter on the T4 was also changed slightly. It was made to be more sensitive, but it also has a lot of issues with reliability. So for me personally, I don't really see a reason to buy a T4. If you want to, then by all means. But the T2 and the T3 are very viable options, and for me anyway, they provide a more solid feeling camera. Oh, I did also forget to mention a small caveat to this camera. The leatherette, no matter what you do, no matter how you store it, no matter how well it has been preserved, the leatherette will shrink and you will get this nasty gummy gunk around the edge that just collects dirt, and yeah, it's not very pretty. There's a seller on eBay I know that sells covers for these cameras, and I think it's like $15 or something. So eventually I probably will replace the leatherette. But yeah, just as a disclaimer, you will be dealing with shrunken leatherettes. All right, so on to the lenses. So here I have the 40mm f1.8. This is a pretty infamous pancake lens by Konica. It's renowned for its sharpness, its portability. I love this lens, honestly. I've achieved really good results with it in terms of picture quality. In terms of the quality of the actual content of the images, I cannot attest to that because I am barely an amateur photographer. I have far more interest in the gear than the results, to be honest. but I've been really enjoying shooting film. So the 41.8 was one of Konica's later lenses. I believe it is a mixture of plastic and metal construction, but the focus is rather smooth. The aperture click stops are very confidence inspiring. It does go down to f/22. I don't know why you would ever need to use f/22, but it's there if you want it. But yeah, great lens. They have definitely been going up in price lately. I'd say the average for these being sold just on their own is about $100. But if you can find them in a camera lot or on a camera body, then you can have them for much cheaper. And that's actually how I got this one. It was a camera lot of 3. It was a Spotmatic Pentax ME, and then a different autoreflex TC. And this lens was on the TC. And yeah, that camera lot was a bargain, to be sure. Here we have another very famous lens, possibly even more famous than the 41.8. This is the 50mm f1.7. Sometimes regarded as the sharpest lens ever made for a 35mm camera. I like this lens a lot, but I have to be honest, this is the third 50mm f1.7 that has passed through my hands, and this is the only one that has not had oil on the aperture blades. And I don't know if I've just had really rotten luck or if they used a low quality oil in these lenses, but it took me a long time to find one that was in good shape. But this one actually is in impeccable shape. There were several iterations of the 51.7, as it did have a pretty long production run. This would be one of the early mid models, and I actually have an early model here. So you can see that for the most part they are, they are rather similar in their markings, but you can see this one says EE, and this lens is AE. So this stands for electric eye. This is automatic exposure. So at some point in the production run, they switched the abbreviation. The front is relatively similar. Oh, no, it is the exact same, actually. This lens is actually a beater lens that I have. I've completely torn it down, cleaned it, put it back together, just kind of for fun. I was hoping I could get it fully cleaned up, but the front element has some serious water deposit damage, and I do not believe it's repairable. But I was able to clean all the fungus and dust out of the inside, and I also cleaned the aperture assembly. So that was pretty satisfying and fun. Took me probably about, I don't know, like 2 to 3 hours in total of actual working time, not letting the aperture assembly soak. Yeah, it was good fun. These lenses really aren't that complicated to take apart. I did have trouble with this one because I guess someone had left it in a very, very damp spot because, as I said before, there was fungus, but there was also a lot of corrosion on some of the screws on the inside, so I actually had to drill out some of the screws, and yeah, someone really put a beating on this lens. Anyway, I digress. We'll move on to the next one. So here I have the 28-35. I actually have not used this lens with film yet. I've been using it on my EM5 mirrorless camera because it's a micro four thirds sensor. It doubles the effective focal length, so this 28 turns into a 56mm lens on that camera. But so far I've been very happy with it. I've read things online of people complaining about the sharpness of this lens. Personally, I'm not a pixel peeper. I don't really like to pick apart my images. For my purposes, I've really been enjoying this lens. and I'm very excited to test it with film. I actually just acquired a bunch of expired films, so I'm going to be doing a lot of shooting in the next few weeks. So when I do my in-depth review / overview of this lens, I will make sure to update you on what I think of it. All right, here we have the 135 3.2. This is also quite a popular lens, especially for portraits. This lens is in amazing condition. The lens hood has a little bit of play in it, which is pretty irritating, to be honest. But this lens hood doesn't extend very far anyway and isn't entirely useful. So if you're going to use a lens hood, I would recommend just using a screw-on lens hood or a clip-on lens hood. Sorry. So yeah, this is very good for portrait shots, wildlife photography. I took this downtown a few days ago, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Seems very sharp. It is, I don't know if it was the, what camera was I using? I believe I was using the T2. I did have difficulty focusing with this lens. I'm not sure if that's just because it was my first time using it, or I'm not used to the micro prisms on the T2 and the T3, as I've been pampered by split prisms on the TC. Split prisms are a godsend. They make it so much easier to focus. I cannot stress that enough. Having microprism focusing only is a pain in the rear. Yeah, it's 3.2 to f16 with automatic exposure, of course. It's a hexagon lens. They all have automatic exposure. Yeah, very pleased with this lens. It's very pretty. The glass is very nice looking. I believe it's a very simple lens. I think it's 5 elements in 4 groups. I can't remember. But again, once I do my in-depth review, I will be doing an in-depth overview / review of all of this equipment. Again, just to reiterate, this is just an overview of my equipment and what you can be expecting from this channel in the future. So that's 135 f2. Finally, I have the 50mm f1.8. So this was Konica's replacement for the 50 1.7. It is not regarded as being as sharp as the 50 1.7, but it's significantly smaller, lighter. This one's in immaculate shape. Aperture blades are super snappy. Again, maybe I just had rotten luck with the 50 1.7s, but again, I had to go through 4 to find a good example. And this is the first one I saw, and it's immaculate. So take that as you will. Yeah, I really like this lens so far. Light, far more compact. I would almost consider this a pancake lens, as it's essentially the same size as the... Oh, you know what? I think this is a pancake lens. Huh. Never even figured that, but yeah, it most definitely is. That is the exact same thickness as the 41.8, and that is a pancake lens, so this must be. So yeah, a pancake 50mm prime. That's good stuff. I've been happy with the images I've taken with it so far. Again, it's in very good shape, very snappy. Focusing is super easy, very smooth. Yeah, that's 51.8. Oh, I forgot to mention, with the 28mm 3.5, I actually got this as a package with the original case and lens hood. This lens isn't really that sought after, so if you're interested in wide angles, would definitely recommend going after the 28 3.5. I believe there's also a 28, what was it, a 2.4, I think, but those are rather rare and go for a quite a premium, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, so I got the 28-35 as a package with this original lens hood, which is immaculate, in the lens case. The guy I bought it off of said he was pretty sure it has never been used, and I would believe him. There's literally not a mark on any of this stuff. So I was very happy that I was able to get that off him. Okay, and finally, I have an original autoreflex T3 manual. This actually came bundled with this camera. This was a local guy just selling off his old setup. So it was the camera, the lens, a bunch of rolls of old film, some flashes, a manual, actually a bunch of old manuals. They're very, very cool. But yeah, so this is just a neat little piece of literature to have. Really sends you back in time. I'm not from this era, so this isn't exactly nostalgic for me. It's more so interesting from a more historical perspective. But yeah, it's in very nice condition. I've been having fun just browsing through it and seeing how things were written. I even find the different fonts used interesting. But yeah, so that's my Konica collection so far. And I also just wanted to update you on my most recent purchase, which I cannot emphasize how excited I am for this. This is a Nikon F2. I've been dreaming of this camera for many months, and finally decided to pull the trigger. This one is in near mint condition. I don't know if you could find a camera that's in better shape, unless it was out of the box, honestly. Very, very happy with this camera. I actually had it imported from Japan. Thank you, Utaka. And then the lens I bought from a local camera shop. It's a 50 F2 in beautiful shape. I didn't really understand what people were talking about when they were talking about Nikon cameras and Nicors in terms of the quality. But now that I have one, my God, I think I understand now. Everything is just so finely machined. I believe this was the last of the hand assembled Nikons. This was actually the last of the professional grade fully mechanical SLRs that Nikon made. After this came the F3, and that had an electronically controlled shutter. This camera also came with the AS1 hot shoe attachment, so that clips onto the top of the film rewind crank there. So I can use I can use a flash with this camera without having to use a sync cord. So that's handy. This camera was actually advertised as the light meter not working. It works perfectly, so I don't know what, I don't know if there was a mistake made or something, but yeah, very, very pleased with this. I will be doing probably several videos on this camera in the future, but I just wanted to give you a little update, and I'm also just extraordinarily excited, so I want to share this with as many people as possible. But yeah, I would show you the inside, but I do have a roll of film in it. I'm actually going to go out shooting as soon as I finish filming this video. But yeah, so that's all I have for you today. This is my Konica collection. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're looking forward to all the content to come. I have a lot of things to talk about. I hope my presentation has been improving slowly. Yeah, that's all I have for you today. Take care. Thanks for